to pray. There's no angels where I go, only pieces that are broken, scattered dreams across the floor. I'm home.
Alrighty, hello everybody, this is Show here. Now then, whenever we last left off, we just had All Might die against, well, the Blacklight team that Deku commands, basically. Now then, All for One and Deku, they are talking as they have arrived in Overhaul's base. Things are a bit different, however. Deku, he is walking through the hallway as he's trying to find Overhaul. As he comes to a certain intersection, he sees that there's a corridor here that wasn't here before, so what is going on? That's a bit strange. As he sends a pulse straight through the corridor, watching as not only is this corridor not been here before, but there's an entire section he's never seen. As he forms his claws, he says one thing. They should expect someone or more people to be here. As Deku begins to run through, everyone will begin to follow him. Until Deku comes upon one thing. He finds that Overhaul is talking to a small child, and that her arms and her legs are wrapped in bandages over and over and over again. As Overhaul, he would catch their attention. They would just ask exactly what's been going on, and why have they never seen this part of the base. To which Overhaul would just say that it's a bit more complicated than that. This part was sectioned off because it's where, well, his daughter lives and she has a problem with her immune system. So they constantly have to do blood tests and other things on her. So he kinda hid it so it wouldn't be a bit obvious. As Deku can clearly see Eri. Eri, she would just be hiding her face as Overhaul explained that he's sorry about that, but they need to go now. As they would be pushed out of the room, basically. Deku wouldn't believe that, however, telling All for One that he believes this is something different. Exactly what is that girl's quirk? She clearly had a quirk because of that horn on her head. It can't be a coincidence. Well, it would make sense. As All for One would say. Well, it would make sense. So, exactly what is this whole thing? Now then, let us skip to 1 week later, where Deku, he still has that corridor on his mind, as he would be walking past the exact same area. Now, he would be walking into a room as he would see that the world has been dealing with All Might's death in a bad way. Everyone else in the league is talking, while Dabi and Todoroki are just catching up. These two have basically been inseparable since Todoroki's been able to talk again. Now, a lot of people are actually rallying behind the Blacklight virus, while some people are opposing it. Now then, Shigaraki, he has been a bit more stable, or steady-minded as you can say. However, behind the scenes, him and Overhaul have been talking and trying to work out a plan with All for One to take out Deku. Now, this plan, however, it is not easy. Most of the time, Deku and everyone else is in sleep, so they need to do it during one of those periods where they do. Even then, not everyone sleeps. So, that's the hard part. They'd have to figure out a way to hit everyone when they're sleeping, or at least make them fall asleep. Which would be the easiest time to take them down, since they're basically helpless when they are asleep. I said asleep a lot right there. Anyways, Deku, he is thinking and talking with everyone else, as he would just do one thing. He would pull them in the next room and call somewhat of a meeting for the League. As he begins to go over things, he would just explain to All for One that their last opponent that they should face down is Heller. He knows where Heller will be, and he is most likely moving people already. With All Might out of the way, he has enough power. Besides, now that we are starting to have people rally behind us and wanting to be infected, this will prove exactly how much sway we have. But we need to expand. As he would just say that, you two, as he would point over to Dobby and Todoroki, saying that they've been getting very close, yes, but he's sorry that he has to break that up. Him and Ochako should be the only ones left in Japan, which would somewhat confuse everyone. As Deku would say that he can spread each of them over the continents. They have pull in Japan, but what happens as soon as they get done infecting it? It turns into a war zone. The governments in the world will unite behind each other and view Japan as an enemy, since even the leaders could be infected. So what would be their best option? The nuclear option. It sounds bad, yes, but if we have sway in people outside, then they'll be less likely to do so. Because they'd have the threat that we're already strong enough to kill a hero and the symbol of peace. So, if we can take out other governments and get them under our control, we can do this properly. Which is whenever he would say that he has false identities booked for them already. But just getting there is going to be the problem. Everyone would have to pick a location, and be scoured across the globe. Now, while that happens, Deku, he would just tell All for One that this is going to be a bit of a trip. He understands that he needs to take down Heller, yes, but afterwards, this will be hard to deal with. No. As Deku says that, his team would leave, as he walks in the next room and begins to discuss things. All for One, however, he would go down to Overhaul and see exactly how his progress has been made with the rewind bullets. Deku, he is talking with his team, as he pulses the area, seeing that there's no one nearby, as he goes over the plan. Everyone is going to be going under false identities soon. However, if we let All for One think that you are leaving the country, he will try and commence his plan. Now, after we take down Heller, we need to take down All for One and Overhaul. So, this is the plan. Once I take down Heller, I absorb as much stuff as I can in that city and come back. Or mess its Kirigiri. I pretend to be weakened, then I can take out All for One. But that's just my problem. As soon as I go to kill that man, everyone in the base will be on me. So, as he would turn to Todoroki asking if he can get his brother Dobby to at least leave the area then. Because if the League catches wind of this, Dobby might get on the wrong side. To which Todoroki would just nod, saying that he can at least try. Even then, the only problem after that would be his father. His quirk is the best suited for destroying us, but I'm at least part of a counter. No. Deku would just say that that's true, but this is going to be where his plan commences, as they would all break apart. Overall, he would just explain one thing. To All For One. The bullets, they're somewhat ready. The black market buyers, they'll love this. Especially since they basically have a cure for the Blacklight virus. However, it may not be indefinite. It could probably cure someone for about 3 weeks, just like the other bullets. But this one, it's been a bit more tricky. As he would hold up a single bullet saying that this is the only known cure for the Blacklight virus on the planet. It's impressive, but it's dangerous. Because being infected with it could either turn you human, leave you quirkless, or completely obliterate your entire body system, making you completely disappear into nothing but space dust. Now, All For One would just look at this as he is impressed, as Deku would walk into the room. Deku would just ask exactly what is that, as All For One would go on saying that this is their quirk erasing bullets, as he would grab it from Overhaul, saying that these are going to be the key to their future. The heroes, they have not met such technology as this. This is where... This is where the future truly begins. Now, your team, you sent them out, correct? Well, they're still getting ready. But they should be out within the next week. Todoroki is saying his goodbyes. And I do believe Dobby might actually come with him. Would that be okay? Yes, that should be fine. The League, it will be a blow to them, but we are all family. And as All For One would just bring his hand up saying, family is important, don't you understand? To which Deku would somewhat just look away, saying he does. But one thing still pains him. He needs to find his dad, or at least find out what happened to him. So this goes deeper than he thought. Now, this is whenever Deku, he would just do one thing. He would just ask exactly what their plan is and when should it be executed. Because he's going to go for Heller in 2 days. He just needs to get things ready with Uraraka and find out exactly how to do it. Because Heller, he may still have some of that virus, or at least what infected Elizabeth and him. Now, Deku is lying through his teeth, as he would say that if he comes back in a weakened state, then it shouldn't be too difficult to get Heller, because he's going to make sure Heller at least gets infected too. If he gets taken out of commission, go for Heller as fast as possible. It'll be their only chance to take him down. Now then, as Deku would say that, he would walk out of the room, getting ready for war. As this will be a bloodbath. Now, 2 days have passed. Deku, he is saying goodbye to everyone, as he's shaking hands and giving hugs. Todoroki, Dabi, and Momo, they're all going to the same place. They're heading straight for New York. While Kirishima, Mina, these two are heading they are heading somewhere into China. While Kaminari and Jiro, these two are heading straight for Alaska, planning to infect the continents on each individual side. Deku, he would just ask Kendo one question. Exactly where will she go? To which she would just say one thing. She's not sure. She's always been so foolhardy and, well, confident in herself. So, even among the outcast, I'm somewhat of an outcast. Well, I might stick around. Actually, I can do a bit of a favor, as she would hold her hand, shaking Deku's. As she would grab Deku by the other arm, showing that she actually does trust him. She would just say that she plans on going for the other side of Japan, infecting the rest of the continent, or at least the other side of the country. As she says that, a bike would pull up. Now, this is whenever she would do one thing. She would hop on it, saying that she has a plan. Or at least, if it works out, they don't have to worry about the public anymore. Or, well, anyone. Now, Midnight, she's going along with her, as she would just say one thing. Midnight would just say that she's always thought of herself as an outsider too. But even back during UA with Aizawa and Present Mike, it was a bit difficult. So, as she would just pull up her helmet saying that she'll see him around, living virus, to which Deku would just smirk, as Midnight and Kendo would ride away. Deku just folding his arms as Uraka, she would just stand there with him. Deku would just turn to her saying that they have a plan now. So, are you ready? To which she would just nod, and Deku would just turn to Kurogiri asking if he could open a portal. Kurogiri would do so as Deku and Uraka would walk through, as they begin to fall out of the sky. Deku, he would begin to morph his body as he slows himself down with making a fold, or at least bat-like wings. This isn't able to make him fly, but it's at least enough to help him slow himself down. And Jiraka is doing the same, as they land a block away from the camp of infected. They begin making their way there. As whenever they do, no one is outside. So that's a bit strange. Something's been happening here. Now, as Deku thinks that, they begin to make their way in. The camps outside the buildings and near this entire block, they are entirely gone. The camps throughout the entire city block are gone. There's no one inside the buildings, there's no one outside the buildings, there's no one even in this giant complex. It's abandoned. It's not pretty. Now Deku, he would just hear a scream, as him and Uraka would make their way over to the area. As they do, they would see a very, very bad image. Heller, he has been feeding, but he hasn't been feeding on infected. He's been feeding on other evolved, eating them over and over again. As Deku would watch Heller pick up and tear a man apart as he consumes him. Heller somewhat having his eyes glow as he just smirks and starts laughing, as his eyes would start over to Deku. Deku would just look at Heller as he would say one thing. So, you finally reveal your true colors, don't you, Heller? You've been starving yourself, haven't you? Eating the infected only whenever you need to get by. Now that you finally had a good meal, you have decided to binge. So, I never really took you for one of those. So, you haven't even been at your full potential then. Well, it's sad. Well, I guess at least I can help you with that. Now then, as Deku says that, he begins to crack his neck and actually begins to form claws. Except these ones are a lot bigger. Heller would be looking at this as he starts creating his own. Deku would watch as the metal on his body completely forms. Even his legs are somewhat turning into claws, which confused Deku. As he turned to Uraka, telling her that she needs to at least help him out here. To which she would do the same. She would create blades on her arms and blades on her legs and knees, as Deku, he does the same, armoring up in the process. As Uraka would summon hunters. Heller would be watching as these two groups would charge in against each other. Heller would immediately try and get into a grapple with Deku and begin to try and consume him. Deku, not being weakened, would be able to fight against this and try and consume him. As Uraka, she would start by running in, stabbing into Heller's back, and starting to just do it over and over again. Heller trying to knock her away as a hunter would come in, smashing Heller across the face, and trying to tear him apart. As he'd be stabbing into and actually killing the hunters by just breaking their necks and consuming them. He begins to binge eat, as he starts to fight with Deku. These two just keep throwing each other through buildings and actually smashing through, as the military would be alerted because an entire city block just went down. And they keep reading activity in that area. However, whenever they do come to the scene, they see the living virus versus James Heller. In the week since All Might's been dead, Heller's been somewhat making a name for himself. Not as a hero, not as a vigilante, but as a loose cannon. He's been labeled as the Hungry, or at least nicknamed Hungry. Now, during the scuffle, the military they'd be trying to fire and actually shoot at these two, as their bullets are doing nothing. Deku picking up Heller and tossing him straight at a helicopter. Heller would knock out the propeller as the helicopter would start coming down and Deku would run over, as he jumps into the air, grabbing the helicopter and bringing it down, smashing it into Heller, as Uraka would be running at the tank. She would be able to rip off the gun turret as she begins to run over. As she does so, she would immediately just step onto Heller's neck and begin to fire a gun straight point blank into his face, as Heller would reach out to grab it. Uraka keeps firing over and over and over again as she starts breaking through the armor. Heller, he would have just brought his leg up, stabbing Uraka in the back, as she would scream. She would just bring her legs upwards, trying to smash him down in the face, as Heller would just kick her away. Uraka turning around, firing the gun over and over again. As the military shoot a tank at him, or at least a shell at him. Heller would have been hit through the back and have his armor break, as Deku would run in, stabbing him in the back over again. Heller would just turn around, smashing his arm into Deku's face, knocking him away. As that happened, Deku would do one thing. He would be waiting as he gets up off the ground. He starts running back in as Uraka is doing one thing. She keeps calling in hunters and trying to hold off Heller, as she didn't expect him to be this strong. Heller just keeps trying to slash away and consume anyone he can, as heroes would begin to come in. Now, the number 2 hero, I believe her name is Ryuku, the dragon hero. She is having trouble, as Endeavor is also here. They plan to at least try and wipe the city clean before any more infected can get out. Endeavor would watch as Deku, him and Heller are fighting, Endeavor being a bit confused, as Deku would be knocked away, as he comes flying through the air and smashing into a statue, as he would hit the ground. As he would get up, he would turn his head, seeing Endeavor. Endeavor would immediately bring his hands up as Deku would just stare at him for a second, then turn his eyes back to Heller, running back in, confusing Endeavor and Ryukyu. As he's a bit confused, he would watch as Uraka, she's just holding on to Heller, as she's basically just holding onto his back, trying to consume him and at least stab into him more and more. Heller would have grabbed her by the wrist and threw her over his shoulder, as he would begin to smash her into the ground. Uraka taking heavy damage and being thrown away. Heller actually taking out one of her arms, as he would begin consuming himself. Now, as that happens, Endeavor would charge in, as he tries to fillet and destroy both of these two using the arm-mounted flamethrowers. Now, as that happens, Heller, he would have actually used Deku somewhat as a human shield. Deku's armor is able to withstand the heat, but he can clearly feel pain through this. Deku would do one thing as he brings his hands outwards, trying to wrap Heller in his tendrils, and trying to consume him more and more. As one thing would happen, Heller would begin doing one thing. He would use his feet by bringing them upwards, throwing them down into the ground, as spikes begin forming throughout the entire area, blasting through the buildings and actually taking out the tanks in the way. The military, they're helpless against these three, as Ryukyu, the dragon hero, would have actually grabbed Endeavor, throwing him out of the way, getting stabbed in the arm. Now, Deku, he would immediately do one thing, as he would turn his attention towards Endeavor. He would just say that they have a problem. He's gone unstable and out of control. If you can actually help us, I can promise you one thing. As Endeavor would turn his attention towards Deku, bringing up his arm. He would just stare at Deku, as Deku would say he can promise him Todoroki and Toya. To which Endeavor pauses. Deku would just go on saying that he knows about Toya's condition. Now listen, there is a doctor that fixed him, and I've gotten him out of the way of All for One. If you just listen to me, I can get you contact with them. But not right now. If you help me take down Heller and All for One, I promise that your family can be reunited and live in peace. But as Deku would continue, this is whenever Endeavor, he would just keep blasting a flamethrower at Deku, as Deku would bring up a shield, saying he doesn't understand. Toya's quirk is cremation, correct? Blue fire. Hotter than yours. If you do that, I can also promise you Todoroki. Even then, he uses his fire now, to which Endeavor somewhat stops. He would turn his attention back toward the battle as he sees Ryuka and Uraka somewhat fighting Heller. Heller keeps trying to shoot out tendrils and stabbing everyone he can, but Uraka dodging and Ryuku somewhat getting hit sometimes, but she's at least able to manage. Endeavor would just turn his attention towards Deku, asking exactly what does he need to do. Deku would just say that, for now, just focus your fire on Heller. And tell that woman to back away. If she gets consumed, she's only going to fuel him more. Endeavor, he would just somewhat nod as he would run into battle with Deku. Deku, he would come in as he just smashes a hammer fist straight in Heller's face, as he would get sent flying. While that's happening, Ryuku is nursing her arm injury and the one she has in her gut, as she would just ask exactly what the hell just happened. Endeavor would say that for now, they have somewhat come to a truce. They're gonna help us take out that maniac. He's too reckless right now. Besides, he's consumed too many people. Now, he needs to be taken care of. We can handle them later. But for now, you need to get to Recovery Girl. Or at least a goddamn hospital. Now then, with that being said, Heller would be getting back up, as he begins to mutate more and more. He would do one thing as he brings his arm outwards and begins to stretch it, lashing outwards towards Uraka. Deku, he would have actually gotten in the way as he would have grabbed Uraka and brought up a shield with his arm, as this would have stabbed in Deku's shield and actually punctured through it. Deku would be watching as this thing just keeps trying to poke around and stab at Deku. Uraka, she would have gotten up, going past the shield and actually slicing it off, as Deku, he would have actually grabbed this and consumed it, as he would freeze for a second, watching everything that's happened. Deku gets angrier as he would just shout one thing. He killed their entire species. He is truly a bigger maniac than even me, as Uraka's a bit confused. Deku would just say that everyone in the camp is dead. Heller came back here and decided to have a little feast. That's why he's been crazy. He's got too many people in his head at one time, so no one's even at the wheel. Now then, as that said, Deku, he would do one thing, charging in straight for Heller, as Endeavor begins to blast fire in his direction. Uraka, she would be looking around as she would see a tank in the distance, but there's a turret closer by. She would run over to a broken tank and rip off the gun, as she would run in. She would do one thing, as she begins to wrap her arms and actually coat the entire turret in her tendrils, as she would wait for Deku. Deku would have charged in, smashing into Heller and actually uppercutting him with his hammer fist, as he would have made his giant gauntlet on one arm, beginning to bring it up, smashing it down to Heller over and over and over again, as he would have been able to pick up Heller with his other arm, batting him away with his giant hammer. As Heller gets sent flying, Uraka had been waiting as she would have hardened everything in her arms and smashed Heller with his turret, as she hits him with the full brunt of everything she's got. As that happens, this actually broke through Heller's armor as Endeavor would begin to burn him. Heller would be screaming as he continues to do so. Deku running in and actually pulling away and actually ripping apart Heller as he begins to try and regenerate. Uraka, she would run in too, as she begins to do the same, as these two are basically using their tendrils to rip Heller apart, as Endeavor is doing the job for them. These two begin to consume Heller as they would just rip him in half, consuming him completely, getting both of the memories, as they're looking through them. Uraka, she's exactly what Deku was talking about, as she would somewhat drop to the ground, crying. Endeavor being a bit confused, as Deku, he would just walk over and comfort her. Deku would just tell her that it's going to be okay. They'll find a way. We'll make this work. Now, we don't need to worry about that. Endeavor being a bit confused, as he would just ask what the hell just happened, to which Deku would look up and just have this stare on his face. Endeavor realizing that they're still the enemy, to which he would just ignite his arms, saying that the bastard lied to him, to which Deku would say no, he didn't. He just found out something. There was 1,000 people here. They all had the virus, they're all like us, with unique mutations. Heller, however, as Deku would turn away, just saying that he butchered them all. He was hungry. He's always been. Holding off that urge to feed drove him insane. Whenever he finally did, he lost his mind. He wasn't even one of us anymore. He was a monster. As one thing would happen. Deku, he would fake an injury, as he holds his arms over his guts, immediately just getting hurt. As he would have slid his hands over his stomach, ripping it open, Endeavor being a bit confused. As Deku would turn, looking at Uraka as she's actually doing somewhat the same. Endeavor would just ask what the hell they're doing, as they would say, playing a role. Now, just stay away from it for now. As they would just call Kurogiri. Deku would just pretend, sounding very frantic and very ill, as he actually is coughing into the phone, telling Kurogiri that they need a portal right now and Heller is on their tail. As the portal would open up, and him and Uraka would fall through, as both of them are on the ground, clutching their guts. As Deku would just say that Heller was a bit more powerful than he thought. He killed everyone. He's coming after us next, and they don't have a plan for it. To which All For One is in shock by. Now he's thinking that he might have to use this bullet against Heller when it comes down to it. So, exactly what's going to happen now. This isn't good. As one thing would happen as this conversation continues. All For One would have gotten ready to use this Blacklight bullet against him to cure him and kill Uraka. But the base has just been breached. There's reports of a red mist covering the entire area, as you also have one thing happening. You also have the electrical grid growing out, and most of the things being fried, along with it getting very cold in the entire base. Now, this is where Overhaul, he's a bit confused, as anytime he tries to look at the cameras or feed for anything, it would always cut out. Now, he would just turn as he does pick up a gun. In the chaos, he thinks that he can at least kill all of them. So he begins to fire rapidly. He's firing off the cork-destroying bullets and the ones that can destroy the Blacklight, as he's somewhat praying. Now, whenever the lights do flicker back on with emergency power, he watches in horror as there's one thing. All For One is slumped against Deku. And Uraka, she's not in view. Where is she? As one thing would happen. All For One would just fall backwards as he's riddled with bullet holes. And a knife wound in his gut. As he just asks Midoriya, what the fuck did he just do? As he would just say one thing. It's called acting, All For One. Well, it's called acting, Overhaul. Don't you know? It's where you pretend to do something that has not happened. In fact, as he would watch the hole in Deku's gut regenerate, saying that he has known about their little experiment. He doesn't know what it does, though. So he has a guess. Since he didn't use his quirk against him, or even try to defend himself, he's guessing it has something to do with that. So, you mind explaining yourself? As Overhaul, he would begin to turn and try to run, Uraka being behind him as she would hold out her hands. Her fingers would form a giant blade as her other two fingers would do the same, as she would hold this in between Overhaul's throat, saying that she has the most dangerous pair of scissors in the world right now, so you might want to start talking. To which he would just say that it's more than that, don't you know? As he gets ready with his gloves. He would just say that this is different. He has a way to cure both of them. both Corks and Blacklight virus. It's a disease, don't you know this? Oh, I know it's a disease overhaul, but as Deku had just bent down, stabbing into All for One, saying that they are a cure, as he begins to absorb him. Deku watching one thing roll out of his virus, or at least into view, a little blue bullet. As Deku would pick it up, holding it, asking exactly what is this? It was, you handed him the bullet, didn't you? You fired a loaded gun at me, without even the right bullets. Oh, man. Oh, that's rich, Overhaul. Anyways, as Deku would walk over, asking Overhaul exactly what's he gonna do now. As the door would bust open, you would watch as everyone Deku sent away is here. As Overhaul's a bit confused, asking exactly what happened to his men. Kirishima doing one thing, holding up Rappa's head, saying this was their little solution. Now, before we continue, as a portal would open up right behind all of them, Shigaraki walking out immediately, as he would throw his arm through, grabbing Uraka by hers, decaying her entire arm in seconds. As she would have no time to move her fingers, she would bring up her other arm, slashing away at her arm, as she somewhat screams, backing away as fast as possible. As Kirigiri, he would watch Overhaul and Shigaraki run. Now, this is where the League, they do try and come into effect, as you have Mr. Compress try and help these two. But that is the problem. Deku, as soon as he sees the two begin to run through the portal, he would have just told them that they will figure them out later. So, their problem begins now. Exactly what do they have left? Well, as Dabi would walk up saying that he talked to Big Sis and, well, she somewhat was in. However, Twice was a bit hesitant, but as Twice would appear saying that, well, he's not going to join that Overhaul guy. He's crazy. Besides, if it means staying alive and getting out of this, then he doesn't care. So, exactly what does he need to do? Well, Twice. Do you remember our little plan for, as he would just begin stretching, saying, Heller, well, I have a new one. As Twice would be somewhat confused. Deku would just tell Twice to get his tape measure. They're going to be going on a bit of a rampage. Now then, as that's happening, this is where Deku, over the next couple hours, Twice would be making clones and actually replicating everyone in the League. As you have multiple duplicates of so many people. Except for Big Sis, Twice himself, because he refuses to do that, and Dabi. Now then, this is where Deku would just tell them that if they want to back out now, then they need to leave. Because after Overhaul and Shigaraki make their strike, it's going to get messy. Now then, as Deku would say that, him and Uraka, they would somewhat talk for a second. As she asked Deku exactly why they don't just cure themselves. To which Deku looks at her confused for a second. She would just say that if Overhaul is possible to make a cure, then that means they can probably set themselves free from this, right? They can walk away from everything after they take over the world, or at least infect everyone. Right? What are we gonna do? As Deku just starts thinking in his head. He brings his hand up to Uraka's as these two would do one thing. they would share memories. People somewhat being confused as they watch this, these two just going on an information exchange. They would begin to talk, as Deku asked her exactly what they should do then. Uraka would just say that they should take out every infected thing in the red zone. They can get power from that. They can hypercharge themselves, basically. If they do that, then not only can they clear Aldrin, they can bring the city back to what it once was. Restore their childhood home. And they can raise a child there. To which Deku just somewhat backs away from her as he brings his hands up, somewhat blushing. Uraka somewhat giggling, as people have never seen Deku get caught off guard like that. To which Deku would do one thing. He walks back over to her as he hugs her close, saying that that sounds like a good plan. But they just have one problem. As he would turn, saying that Dabi and Todoroki, Endeavor, he's still alive. I've told him that you two can go see him. Are you willing to see that man and reunite your family? To which Todoroki would somewhat nod, as he would turn to Toya asking are they ready to go see their mom and dad. To which Toya would just say one thing. Well, he always wanted to check in to see how Sis was doing, so might as well. Besides, he does want to see Mom one more time. One more. Toya, if this plan works out, we can be a proper family again. Well, I never really thought of it like that. To which, one thing would happen. There would be a bit of an earthquake. As Deku is watching outside, there's a giant thing out there. A giant monster. They can't tell what it is. As everyone begin to run. This is whenever Jiro would say that she has Eri, as they would be walking out. Looking as you see the heroes. They're a bit confused at... Now, they're just watching as you have Mirio, Nejire, and Tamaki, along with some more pros and Bakugo, fighting against a giant monster. Deku, he can clearly see Bakugo because every time one of these giant shockwaves get thrown, you can clearly see that there's damage to this giant creature, made of flesh. Now, Deku would just say that if he's going to go up against that, then he's going to need to charge himself up. Now, you guys have plans in place, correct? Yup. Good. Well, I've got the experience of over 10,000 people coursing through my body. As Deku would just do one thing, saying let's put it to good use. As he buffs up, and immediately does one thing, as he jumps outside. He begins to run as fast as possible and begins to jump away. People watching on his shockwaves begin to follow him. Now, Deku is heading straight for Aldrin, as he would jump over the bridge. People would watch as Deku comes smashing down. He begins to tear his way through the military, consuming them and running through them like they're nothing. Everyone's a bit confused as they would watch Deku run straight for the tallest building. Now, as soon as Deku gets there, one thing would happen. Deku begins his complete and utter critical mass, as he does one thing. He jumps upwards into the air and he completely explodes. Every part of his body extending outwards, straight through the entire city. As Deku is searching everywhere in the city for any survivors, and killing them all. Wiping the city clean. He takes out the infected, the hunters, the hives, and even the biomass in the cities. Taking them out and completely freeing it of infection. as whenever everything comes back to Deku, he does one thing. He begins to grow in size, as he turns into a giant creature, making his way straight for the bridge. The military watching as Deku, he just jumps straight into the water, not even giving it any mind, as he walks straight through it and comes back up on shore, beginning to actually run. As he does so back over in the city, Bakugo and the rest of the heroes that have all failed. Mirio, Nejire, and Bakugo are the only ones left alive to fight this creature, as Deku comes charging in. He grabs this giant thing by the arms and smashes it to the ground, as something didn't feel right. He would look down at his hands as he would see that this is Shigaraki's quirk. Shit. That means the overhaul's in there too. Now, as soon as that happens, Eri would just ask exactly what has been going on. To which they would just say that they're trying to take that guy down. He's the guy who's been doing this to you. So, we're trying to help you. But I thought you were bad guys. As everyone would just turn looking at Eri. Eri would just say that Mr. Overhaul, yes, he's been mean to her and he's been experimenting on her, but he's somewhat been easy. Now, Overhaul, due to his obsession with the Blacklight virus, he hasn't done as much testing as in canon. He has taken blood samples and experimented on them, but he hasn't tried cutting Eri open and seeing what makes her tick, leaving her with the scars on her arms and on her legs. Now, that sounds bad, yes, I know, but the obsession with the virus has been a lot more, so Eri hasn't had that much trouble with it. So, with that being said, he's only been able to make researches and steps in the last month of the time whenever the heroes, whenever I did that month time skip in the last episode, that's whenever he was researching the actual quirk destroying bullets and getting into the research more. Now then, with that being said, Deku, he would actually have to shake away and actually throw away a lot of biomass to get rid of the decay. As he's doing that overhaul, he would look straight for Deku as he holds out his hand, immediately beginning to destroy and actually tear apart his arm as Overhaul grows in mass. Deku would just regenerate the arm as he comes upwards, swinging down on Overhaul, smashing into the giant creature. People will be watching as these two be throwing each other around and actually destroying the city, as just their footsteps alone from walking are just destroying city blocks. Bakugo is trying to intervene and actually step in, as anytime he does throw a punch, it doesn't work. As Deku would watch Bakugo. Bakugo would have been high enough into the air to actually see Midoriya piloting this thing. And he watches on in horror as Deku stares straight at him. Now, he would have done one thing. Charging straight at Deku, he would have charged up a 1,000,000% smash, as he throws it as hard as possible straight towards Deku. Deku would have been able to bring his arm upwards, blocking it, but this would have immediately annihilated the entire arm, as Deku would have come stumbling backwards. As soon as that happens, Deku, he would have charged forward as he heads straight for Overhaul, as he would have smashed Overhaul into the ground. Now, as that happens, Overhaul will begin to do one thing, trying to tear apart Deku's creature. Doing so, Deku, he would have been able to get out of it and at least get away from it, as Overhaul keeps doing so. Deku, he would land on the ground as he's a bit exhausted and tired. Now, he begins to shake away his head as he tells them to go away. Now is not the time for them, as Bakugo, he would land on the ground and turn his head straight at Deku. as Deku would turn, saying that it's nice to see him again. So I'm guessing that that's not your doing then. No. I'm trying to stop that actually. So, why exactly are you doing it? I've never seen you do anything good. Well, long story short, as Eri and everyone else would run up, Baku would be a bit confused as he would stare at her for a second, saying that he's taking in children now, isn't he? Just when he thought he couldn't sink any lower, he does. To which Deku would just say no. That giant thing up there, it houses the man who tortured a child. So, we can put this all aside for now and take him down, as he would just say one thing. It should work fine. However, he did. However, he did see a bit of Overhaul's memories. In fact, he saw a lot of everyone's. So, listen. Her quirk is rewind. I have an idea. That does not make any sense. Well, if you have a better idea, I'm all ears. So, listen. As he would walk over to Eri, bending down to look at her, he would just say that he needs her help for a minute. Do you think you can do that? To which she would just look at Deku for a second. She would say that she's not sure if she can, and Deku would just tell her that he believes in her. Now listen. He's seen the potential of rewind. That quirk is not, well, every quirk is villainous. Remember this. But it's how you use it. Now, with that being said, I do need you to do one thing. I'm going to try and get you as close to that man as possible. I need you to use your quirk. Whenever you do so, you can tear him apart and give me a chance to take out two of them. Can you do that for me? Please, Eri. To which Eri would just bring up her hands, saying that she can try. But she's not sure if that would work. No. Now then. Deku, he would do one thing, as he picks up Eri, and he somewhat has his tendrils hold her in place. As Bakugo would say one thing. He's seriously not going to be able to do this. Not by yourself. Oh, so we're on the same side now. No, we're not. But that thing is destroying and killing people. Now even that, it gets bigger every time it takes a step. So, if I help you, I'm carrying the girl. You're not touching her. Alright. You afraid I'll infect her? Actually, I am. Besides, you seriously can't expect me to trust you after you kill All Might. Okay, well, fair point. Now then, this is whenever Bakugo, he would take Eri away from Deku and hold her, have her get on his back, as he would charge up one for all. She would just do one thing, asking if she should use her quirk. To which Bakugo would say if she can, that would work. Now then, Eri has had a bit more time to work on Rewind, but she doesn't have full control. If she thinks about it, or concentrates on it very hard, she can activate it. Now then. She would turn it on for a second, as Bakugo watches his arm heal. He's completely in shock by this, as he just realizes the potential. So, he does one thing. He goes all out, letting himself go unrestrained, as he grabs Deku and immediately just tosses him as hard as he can straight at Overhaul, as Deku gets sent flying towards this giant creature. Now then, as that happens, Bakugo, he would do one thing, bring his legs outwards and down as he just takes off flying. He comes flying straight through the air as he comes in, smashing straight into Overhaul. As that happens, he would just do one thing. He begins to throw around as much force as possible, trying to dig away into this creature. As he's also throwing around his explosions, Black Whip, and using Float to try and keep himself away from it, whenever it does try and lash out against him. Now, these two begin to bury their way through as Deku, anytime he gets caught or stopped by anything, he just rips it apart and consumes it. Deku doing this, he's growing stronger and stronger with each time he smashes through it, as he would basically be staying behind Bakugo, making sure Overhaul cannot keep and actually consume whatever he has just used to create this thing, since he knows for a fact Overhaul cannot create matter. Now, as that's happening, Overhaul, he is in fear, as Shigaraki is also trying to figure this all out. Their plan isn't working. Even then, this is the best they can come up with. Well, what else did you want? Besides, I have an advantage. I still have this. As he would hold up one simple thing. He holds up a case with what can be best described as the cure. Now, this is whenever Deku, he would have been able to at least get enough biomass to start eating away at everything around him. Bakugo just watching as he just keeps lashing out more and more and more. Eventually these two getting straight to the top of the creature. As Deku would begin to do one thing. He would just tell Overhaul that this is over. As Overhaul would look straight at Deku and Eri, along with Bakugo, saying that this cannot be. His plan fell apart as soon as he walked into his fucking lair. Not even that, the moment I've met you, you've been nothing but overconfident, overestimating yourself. Do you ever stop to question what you're doing is wrong? Deku would just say no. He has questioned a lot of things in his life. I have over 320 years of experience of anything in the world. I have everyone's memories. I know everything I can. And you wanna know what? I still see fear. I still know it. I still find it. As Deku, he would bring his hands up covering his face. Overhaul seeing Deku actually look surprised. Deku would just say every time he closes his eyes, he sees 1,000 dead men screaming at him. It's not something he can get away from. And every day that number just grows bigger and bigger. Until it's drowning him out. So he knows exactly what Overhaul talks about. But he's gone a bit too far. As Deku would just throw his hands downwards, throwing as many tendrils towards Overhaul as possible. As Overhaul would be trying to reconstruct them. Deku, he'd just be moving around and dodging them as Bakugo, he's bouncing around the room. He would smash in Shigaraki's chest as he is trying to take him down. Shigaraki actually acting as somewhat of a guard, but he does not have his hands. Those are somewhere else in the creature. Now, as that's happening, Deku, he would be smashing into Overhaul, as he would get straight into a grip with Overhaul. These two fighting back for dominance, as Deku notices that his arms are decaying, to which he would be in shock by. Overhaul would just say that, well, it was fun while it lasted, but he'll just kill them and take Eri back. At least then he can rebuild, or try to. Now, as that's said, Deku would do one thing, creating two more arms underneath, as they would cut through the ones Overhaul is touching. along with Overhaul's own hands. Overhaul would begin to scream at Deku. He would just grab Overhaul by the face and begin to consume him. As whenever he does so, he immediately jumps over to Shigaraki, doing the same, as this creation begins to fall apart. As Bakugo would do one thing. He would smash away through the roof as these two would jump out, getting away from this creature as it falls apart. Deku and Bakugo landing. As that happens, Deku and Bakugo are talking. Bakugo would just say that he never expected to team up with him, but it at least worked. So, how are they going to handle this now? To which Deku would just say one thing. It appears that they have to fight, but he doesn't want to. This has actually brought back a lot of memories. Funny you mentioned memories. Now, you want to know something funny? What is that? Well, it's just a bit difficult, but... Sir Night-Eye, he gave me a little something. Really? Yeah, well, he at least left it for me, as Bakugo would hold up one thing. Saying that this is a vial. It contains the only thing in the world that can make him immune to the virus, which would make Deku's eyes widen. Deku would tell Bakugo not to do that, as Bakugo would smirk, injecting it straight into his neck. As he would set Eri down, he would tell her to get away from the area. As Bakugo would just look towards Deku, saying that should do that. Now, exactly what are they going to do? You can't turn me anymore. So that means I'm the only human alive immune to your little virus and your tricks. If you kill me, you kill me. If you try to consume me, you might cure yourself. Now, that's a little dilemma, but what are you going to do against me now? To which Deku, he's trying to think. Now, Deku, he has an idea, as he would hold his arm outwards, blasting a cannon straight at Bakugo. Bakugo, he would try countering it with a punch, but as soon as he does, this would somewhat web him up, as everyone else would arrive. You have Kirishima, Mina, and everyone else, along with Uraka. They are just watching Bakugo, as he's asking exactly what the hell they're all doing here. Deku would do one thing. He would say that he tried making those as strong as he can, but he's sorry, as he would stab his hand downwards into Bakugo's neck, trying to transfer him into a Blacklight, watching as he just have to pull his hand backwards and it being eaten away, as he actually just slash at it, cutting it off. He finds this a bit just annoying, as he says one thing. That was at least good. Now, so what are you going to do against me? As Bakugo begins to smirk and laugh at Deku. Deku would just say one thing. He has this little treat right here, as he would hold up this cure, telling Bakugo that he's not sure what Overhaul meant, but this could make you corkless and not immune anymore. So let's give it a shot. To which Bakugo would be in horror, trying to shake away and actually move away from Deku, as he turns on full cowling in his legs, trying to kick away. Deku, he would have tried cutting away at Bakugo, taking away his legs as Bakugo is trying to get away even more, finding that he cannot move anymore. Deku would stab this into his neck as Bakugo begins to somewhat cure himself. Cure is an odd definition for this, though. Bakugo, he morphs into somewhat of a hybrid. He is immune to the Blacklight virus, but can still carry its effects, However, his quirk and everything is changed drastically, as his process of transforming is a bit different. Yes, he did make himself immune to the Blacklight virus, but he can still carry it, subconsciously at least. Now, what I mean by that is, he can carry the same effects as the Blacklight virus, but he's untraceable, untrackable, and immune to water. So, he is a perfect version of what Elizabeth sought out to be, as Bakugo would have regrown his legs after a couple hours. And we will have a bit of a time skip. It has been 7 to 8 years since the fight with Overhaul and Shigaraki. Japan is still recovering, but they're not the only city having problems. Aldadrin and everything has had a drastic cleanup, while Deku, he has taken out nearly every corrupt world leader on the planet during this time. Using twice his method of duplicating himself over and over again, and having himself in multiple places, he's been able to infect over half the population of the planet with the strain Bakugo carries. Along with actually using the strain he also carries as somewhat of a way to carry on Elizabeth's legacy. After infecting himself with a new strain, he would have returned home one day. Well, he would have been infected with it already, but he would be going home one day, as he is walking through a park in Aldadrin. He would do one thing, as he sits down at a picnic table, asking Uraka how they're doing. She would just say that the kids are doing fine, but, well, they are learning about everything that happened back then. The fighting, the war, and everything we've tried to accomplish. As Deku would turn his head, seeing his son and daughter. They're playing and actually running around, as Deku would just say one thing. Alex, Elizabeth, come over here. As they would run over, hugging their dad, asking exactly how things have been. Deku would just tell them that things have been fine. It's just, he's happy to see them. He's happy that they see the home that he once lived in. As they actually tell their dad that they're actually able to use their viruses, or their Blacklight abilities. To which they would show Deku. Him being impressed, asking Ochako how is she feeling? As she would stand up, revealing that she is pregnant with another child. To which Deku, he would just smile, as he would walk around the table and give her a kiss, saying that everything in America and, China has been working fine. However, over in Germany and Europe, Todoroki and Momo, they've had a bit of trouble. Uraka would ask exactly what this is, but Deku would just say that they don't know how to change diapers. Or at least Todoroki doesn't. To which he would somewhat laugh. Meanwhile, over in America, Jiro and, Kaminari, they've somewhat taken a part of the region somewhere in Texas to at least be an embassy for their people. Anyone can be turned and converted with this new strain, but those who are born with it have a better chance at living a normal life, just like their own children. While over in New York, Kaminari and, not Kaminari, Kirishima and Mina, they've shown off a bit of things with their children, sending Deku over a video of their kid learning about hardening his skin and throwing acid, along with the snake-like effect and the metallic effect his skin would get whenever he uses his virus, to which Deku would be somewhat happy at seeing, as he would check in over at Paris, seeing that Kendo, she's actually found someone. Now, the man she found was Mr. Multi-Quirk, or Bakugo Katsuki. Shortly after the battle with Overhaul and being turned into the world's first new infected, or a new strain, that completely throws everything away about the old one, he decided to somewhat take a bit of a vacation, finding that he now feels like his own outcast. To where him and Kendo would have done one thing. They would have taken Eri away and raised her over in Paris, alongside her very own sister. Well, Bakugo, he does act as a leader and an ambassador over in Paris for their people, but, well, there is still a bit of public backlash about everything that happened, but it was somewhat laid over by Deku and everyone just taking out corrupt politicians. So they were seen as at least honest, or just misunderstood villains. Over the last couple years, this is how the world shaped and turned out to be. Well, not all that great, it at least provides that there is hope for the future. And things are peaceful. As Deku would crack a smile, as he thinks of a name for his last child, or his third child. Thinking of one proper name. For a boy, Hisashi, after his own father. He found out what happened to him. He actually did die. Not to a scavenger, not to Elizabeth, but quite simply, the old-fashioned way. He took himself out whenever he found out he was infected. Well, he did so he wouldn't die, or turn or kill his family, thinking he might turn into something like her, but that was so far from the truth. But, well, it's bad. He's at least able to deal with it, as he would pour himself a glass of lemonade and have lunch with his children, as he lives out the happy life he always pictured for himself, giving something to his children he never thought he could ever have. A peaceful world. Now then, that is going to be where I leave things off of, guys. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and I do hope you guys like the end of the series. So, yeah. This one is over, and I'm actually surprised this took me an entire week to make. But, hey, beggars can't be choosers. So, I'm at least happy I can get this one done. However, I'm just a bit annoyed that it took me so long to get this one all completely over with. So, I'm going to be going over my Raven one while this one's editing and actually figuring out where I left off. And I will be picking up with there, well, soon, hopefully. So anyway, guys, I do hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys in, well, the next What If.